He was declared dead, twice. 9 doctors walked away, shaking their heads, but his 8-year-old daughter refused to. When Lily entered that cold hospital room, she didn't see a billionaire. She saw Daddy, and something didn't feel right. She leaned in close, whispered through her tears, "Daddy smells like Grandpa did before he went to heaven." The nurses thought it was grief talking, but that single sentence would unravel everything the experts had missed. Because hidden beneath Alexander Cole's perfect life was a secret one that nearly killed him. And that's where her story truly began. Before we dive deeper, please, if you're listening to this right now, I want to prove my mom wrong. She said I can't even reach 3,000 subscribers. Help me show her that stories like this matter. Subscribe to King's Folklore. And let's keep breathing life into tales that refuse to die. Now let's continue. Alexander Cole had built empires out of nothing but ambition and sleepless nights. Every floor of his skyscraper echoed with his name: Cole Industries, Cole Technologies, Cole Investments. To the world, he was unstoppable. To his daughter Lily, he was just Daddy, who promised he'd be home for dinner. And almost never was. That Friday morning, the air inside the boardroom was thick with tension. Investors were arguing, phones buzzing, papers shuffling. Alexander sat at the head of the glass table, trying to quiet the storm, but behind his composed face, something strange began to stir. A dizziness. A burning under his skin. A taste of metal in his mouth. "Sir, are you all right?" His assistant whispered. He tried to respond, but his words came out like smoke, faint and fading. His vision fractured, and before anyone could react, Alexander's body slumped forward. The room froze. Coffee spilled, chairs screeched, someone screamed. Paramedics rushed in minutes later. Within an hour, 9 of the best doctors in the city surrounded his hospital bed. They checked every vital, ran every test: cardiac arrest, stroke, infection, but nothing fit. By midnight, the monitors went flat. "Time of death, 11:57 p.m., Dr. Raymond said quietly, removing his gloves. The room filled with silence, the kind that hums inside your ears when hope gives up. But outside the hospital window, a small figure was watching. Lily. She'd been sitting in the hallway clutching her stuffed bunny, waiting for someone to tell her it was okay to see her dad. When she finally did, it wasn't the way she imagined. Her mother tried to stop her, but Lily slipped through the door. The room was dim, machines unplugged, people whispering. She climbed onto the chair beside the bed and touched his hand. It was cold, but not gone. Children notice things adults forget to feel. "Daddy," she whispered. No answer. She leaned closer, tears soaking the sheet, and then her small nose wrinkled. It was a smell, not medicine, not metal, something earthy, chemical, familiar. It reminded her of Grandpa before he passed, when everyone said he had a rare sickness. "Mom," she said, turning slowly. "Daddy smells like Grandpa did before he went to heaven." Her mother frowned, exhausted. "Sweetheart, Daddy's just tired." But Dr. Raymond, who had lingered near the doorway, paused. The words echoed in his mind longer than they should have. Later that night, he found himself replaying that sentence in his head. A child's grief shouldn't have mattered to a man of science, but something in her tone, her certainty, unsettled him. He walked back into the room, alone, and leaned close to the body. There it was, a faint, powdery odor beneath the scent of antiseptic, barely noticeable, but real. "Could she be right?" he whispered. He checked Alexander's file again, recent factory visits, inspection logs, new chemical contracts. One detail caught his eye: MTX-7 compound testing, pending safety approval. A new industrial solvent, highly toxic in vapor form. Dr. Raymond's heart began to race. If it was MTX-7 exposure, none of their tests would have caught it. And if they were wrong about his death, he grabbed his phone and called the toxicology department. "Patel, wake up. I need you at the ICU now. Bring the MTX-7 kit." "MTX-7? That's not even cleared for testing yet. Just trust me." A little girl noticed something we didn't. Minutes later, the 2 doctors were back beside Alexander's bed. Dr. Patel ran a UV scan. And under the blue light, faint crystalline dust shimmered on the man's neck. "Residue," Patel muttered. "He's been exposed. If we're right, We have less than 4 hours before complete system collapse. Except he's already declared dead. Then maybe death isn't finished with him yet. They looked at each other, two professionals standing on the edge of disbelief, guided by a child's instinct. Dr. Raymond whispered, "What would you do if this was your father?" Patel hesitated, then replied, "I'd try. Even if everyone called me crazy." And so they did. They began prepping for a test and possible antidote, not knowing if they were fighting a ghost or saving a man who still had a pulse somewhere deep inside. Down the hall, Lily fell asleep on the hospital couch, her tiny hand still clutching the stuffed bunny, unaware that her words had just given her father a chance at life. The night outside, the hospital stretched endlessly, rain tapping softly against the glass, as if echoing the monitor's silent rhythm. Dr. Patel worked quickly, his gloved hands steady despite the uncertainty. No one else knew what they were doing. No official clearance. No test order. Just two doctors, a faint trace of powder, and the words of a child ringing in their heads. "MTX-7 poisoning," Patel murmured again. "It mimics cardiac arrest, shuts down the nervous system completely. The heart slows to a whisper, then stops, but sometimes. Not forever." Dr. Raymond nodded, staring at Alexander's still body. "And if we're wrong, then we lose a man who's already been declared dead," Patel said simply. "But if we're right, we make history." Meanwhile, down the hall, Lily stirred awake. Her mother sat beside her, staring blankly at the floor, phone in hand, unread messages piling up. The little girl rubbed her eyes and whispered, "Can I see Daddy again?" "Not now, sweetheart," her mother said softly. "The doctors are doing everything they can." But Lily shook her head. "They stopped doing everything. I saw them leave. Only the nice man stayed." Her mother frowned. "Nice man?" "The one who listened when I said Daddy smelled funny." That same nice man was now pacing the ICU. He'd run every scan he could, but the readings made no sense. Faint electrical signals, inconsistent but present. "Impossible," he muttered, double-checking the data. "You can't have residual brain activity after this long." Patel walked in, holding a small vial, clear liquid, faintly blue under the light. "The antidote," he said. "Only one problem. We don't have confirmation of MTX-7 in his system yet." Raymond exhaled slowly. "So we either act on faith or wait for proof and lose him for good." Silence filled the room. Even the rain seemed to hold its breath. "Sometimes," Raymond said quietly, "the truth hides in the smallest voice." He remembered Lily's tear-stained face, the way she'd said it, not guessing, not hoping, knowing. He looked up. "Prepare the IV." Patel hesitated. "You're going to risk your license over a hunch?" "Not a hunch," Raymond said, his eyes steady. "A child's memory." At that moment, the door creaked open. Lily stood there, barefoot, clutching her stuffed bunny. No one had seen her slip in. She looked so small against the sterile white room, her voice barely above a whisper. "Please save my daddy," she said. Patel knelt beside her, unsure how to explain science to faith. But she didn't need an explanation. She just reached out, touched her father's hand, and said, "He's still warm." Raymond's heart clenched. Because she was right, the hand wasn't icy like before. It held a trace of life. Patel drew a shaky breath. "All right." Administering the antidote, 10 milligrams, slow drip. The machine stayed silent. Minutes felt like hours. Lily kept whispering, "Come back, Daddy. Come back." Then, without warning, the monitor flickered. A soft beep. Then another. "Heartbeat detected," Patel gasped. "We have cardiac activity." The two doctors looked at each other, disbelief melting into raw joy. Lily's eyes widened as she saw her father's chest rise. Mommy, he's breathing," she shouted, running into the hallway. Nurses stormed in, alarms blaring. And for the first time that night, life filled the room again. As chaos turned to awe, Dr. Raymond stood back, shaking his head. He'd seen recoveries before, but never like this, never after hours of silence. Later, when the ICU cleared, he sat beside the little girl and asked, "How did you know, Lily?" She shrugged, playing with her bunny's ear. Grandpa smelled the same before he got sick. I told Mommy, but she said I was imagining things. But I wasn't. Raymond smiled faintly. You weren't. You saved your father's life tonight. Lily tilted her head. No, God did. I just noticed what everyone else forgot to see. And in that quiet, something inside Dr. Raymond shifted, the way faith sometimes slips through the cracks of reason and makes you believe in miracles again. That night, Alexander's vitals stabilized. The news hadn't reached the world yet, but inside that small ICU, a story was already rewriting itself. The story of a man who'd built everything with logic and money and was about to learn that the most powerful force on earth doesn't wear a lab coat, it wears love. The sun was already rising when Alexander's eyes fluttered open. At first, everything was a blur: ceiling lights, the rhythmic beep of machines, a dull ache behind his ribs. Then, through the haze, he saw her, Lily, curled up beside the bed, her head resting on his arm, still holding that little stuffed bunny. He tried to speak, but his voice cracked. Lily. Her eyes snapped open. For a second she froze, and then she screamed with joy. Mom, he's awake! Daddy's awake! Tears burst from his wife's eyes as she ran in. Dr. Raymond followed right behind, relief flooding his usually calm face. Alexander looked around, confused. What happened? Dr. Raymond smiled faintly. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Try me. He explained everything: the collapse, the tests, the failed attempts, the declaration of death. And then, Lily's words, her observation, her stubborn refusal to give up. Alexander listened silently. When he finally spoke, his voice broke. Raymond nodded. She noticed what none of us did. Alexander turned to Lily, tears welling. How did you know, baby? She smiled shyly. Because you smelled like Grandpa, I told them. He let out a soft laugh, then pulled her close, his heart full in a way it hadn't been in years. For a man who once lived by charts and contracts, this moment, this miracle, shattered every law he thought he understood. He held her tighter, whispering, I'm so sorry for all the times I wasn't here, for missing dinners, for missing you. Lily wiped his tears clumsily with her tiny fingers. It's okay, Daddy. You're here now. The next few days felt like waking from a long, dark dream. Doctors called it a 1-in-a-million recovery. Headlines called it the billionaire who came back from the dead. But for Alexander, it wasn't about the story, it was about the second chance it gave him. He canceled every meeting, paused every deal. For the first time, he ate breakfast with Lily, laughed with his wife, and walked outside without a phone in his hand. Dr. Patel later confirmed the final test results: MTX7 toxin detected. The exposure came from a ventilation failure in one of coal industry's plants. If not for Lily's nose, her father would have been gone forever. When Alexander heard that, he didn't get angry, he got determined. Within a week, he ordered full safety reforms across every factory. No shortcuts, no excuses. He personally visited the site that nearly killed him and spoke to every worker, saying, no profit is worth a single life. Not yours, not mine. The employees were stunned. The news cameras caught it all. But the most viral moment wasn't the press conference. It was a simple photo: Alexander kneeling beside Lily, holding her hand as they cut a ribbon at the reopened, safer factory. Caption: the man who built an empire rebuilt his heart. That night, when the world had quieted down, Lily asked a simple question. Daddy, were you scared when you were gone? He smiled. I don't remember much. Just a voice telling me not to let go. Was it mine? She whispered. He looked at her for a long moment. I think it was. They sat there in silence, a father and daughter who had crossed the line between life and loss, and came back holding hands. And somewhere, deep inside, Alexander made a promise. Never again would work come before family. Never again would he ignore the small, quiet things, the things that truly keep a man alive. In the end, Alexander learned something no fortune could buy: that love sees what logic can't. 9 doctors gave up, but one little girl refused to stop believing. Her faith became the bridge between life and loss, proving that sometimes miracles don't come from heaven. They come from the people who refuse to let go of us. So when life feels too heavy, remember Lily's lesson: look closer, love harder, and never stop believing in what your heart can sense. If this story touched you, hit that subscribe button for more emotional tales from King's Folklore. And even if it didn't, come on, subscribe anyway, we'll win you over next time. Drop a comment, like the video, and let's keep these stories alive.